What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we are talking about another Ruby Amethyst deck list, actually. I know it's a little bit of a quick turnaround for another Ruby Amethyst list, but this deck has 40 cards different than the last Ruby Amethyst deck that I talked about, so I thought it was very much worth talking about it as an entirely different deck list, entirely different strategy, and it is a lot of fun. It's playing some really cool cards, so stick around to see what it is. Before we jump into that, as always, a big shout out to the Patreons for making these giveaways on the channel possible. Couldn't do any of this without you, and we are entering a 3,000 subscriber giveaway, so thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed recently. All you have to do to enter into the giveaway is to be subscribed to the channel and comment on this video, the last video. You'll have a couple more chances to enter, and we're going to be giving away a box of Reign of Jafar to one random lucky subscriber. So thank you guys again so much for supporting the channel. If you want to check out the Patreon, the link is in the description. To support future giveaways, the more Patreon subscribers we get, the bigger giveaways we could potentially do in the future. We are putting 100% of the proceeds from Patreon directly back into giveaways, so please keep that in mind. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk about today's deck list, Ruby Amethyst actions. So the first card in the 1-drop slot, it's a pretty traditional 1-drop slot for this list, is going to be for Chernobog's followers, Creatures of Evil, a 1-cost Inkable 2/1 stat line questing for 1, and when he quests, you do have the option to go ahead and banish him yourself and draw a card, which is fantastic. This deck is all about tempo and drawing additional cards. So the next card is going to be for Diablo, Obedient Raven, a 1-cost Inkable 0/1 stat line questing for 1, and when he's banished, you draw a card. We have 2 Magic Brooms, a Luminary Keeper, a 1-cost Inkable 1/2 stat line, also questing for 1, and his ability is a little bit different. When you play another character, you have the option to banish him and draw a card. So again, he can quest in and then you can banish him with something else, or you can choose not to banish him, keep him ready. If you really want to banish him when he's at threat of being removed favorably by your opponent, if you are not in that situation, just keep questing with him, unless you really need the card draw. Then jumping over to some of our actions, we are on 3 Fan the Flames, a 1-cost Inkable action, ready chosen character. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. So not a card you really heard me talk about on the channel, not a card that I think is generally very strong. It's super situational, so in most decks it's just going to be ink. In this deck it may be ink sometimes, but in some instances it can be very good to have a 1-cost action, and you will see why. Not to mention, readying a character can be pretty good even if you're not taking a challenge with them. They can still sing songs, and they can just be ready for next turn. Next up, we have another 1-cost action in Befuddle, a 1-cost Inkable action. Return chosen character item with cost 2 or less to their player's hand. The item can sometimes be funny. Sapphire Coil, for instance, is pretty funny to bounce back to your opponent's hand and just make them spend extra ink playing it back down. But Befuddle is really solid, very good tempo card at the beginning of the game, very good tempo card even into the first few turns. Like, even if your opponent still has a 1 and 2 dropout, or they're in a deck that's heavy aggro that's even playing additional 2 drops into that turn 3 and 4. Sometimes people are on that strategy where they're playing a lot of 1, 2, and 3 cost characters, and all of a sudden, even into the later turns of the game, you can go Befuddle, and really gain some tempo control back. And our last 1-cost card we have for It Calls Me, a 1-cost Inkable action song this time, which I think is really cool. 1-cost song is pretty neat, especially with some of the characters we have here. Broom can exert to sing a song and still potentially get banished to get you some card draw. The only card you're really not going to want to necessarily sing this with is Chernobog. Obedient Raven's going to be good to sing this, but it's going to let you draw a card and then choose up to 3 cards from chosen opponents, discard and shuffle them into their deck. It's not always a super relevant additional ability. Mainly what this card is doing is creating an action on the stack having been played this turn and drawing you an additional card and immediately replacing itself. Being singable, that's really what you want. Chernodog hasn't been as relevant in the current format, which is interesting because I think the deck has actually gotten better with some of the new additions, so not totally sure why we're not seeing that deck being played as much. This card is incredibly good against Chernodog because you can put some of their characters back into their deck, making it harder for them to get their Chernobog down on the board. It is also really good into Sapphire against those Tamatoas to shuffle their items back into their deck so they can't reclaim them with their Tamatoas. And there's plenty of other instances you can shuffle your opponent's LILO'S back into their deck so that they can't recur them at the beginning of their turn. There's definitely some cards that It Calls Me is actually really good against. Next up in the 2-cost slot, we do have for Kusco Wanted Llama, a 2-cost Inkable 1/2 stat line questing for 1. If you're familiar with my old school Ruby Amethyst list, you know I love this card. I think Kusco Wanted Llama is really good, super good tempo card. What it's going to do in this deck in particular is it's just going to let you continue to draw cards. That's the name of the game. You want to be keeping your hand full of cards at all times, so you can draw into your combo pieces as early as possible and just really combo off and destroy your opponent. But 2-cost Inkable 1/2 stat line, questing for 1, and when he's banished, draw a card. And our other 2-cost character is going to be Raja, Ghostly Tiger, a 2-cost Inkable 3/3 stat line, questing for 1, and he has Vanish, so if he gets targeted by an opponent's action, he is going to get banished, but in those decks that are not targeting him with actions, he is going to be a straight up menace. Then still in the 2-cost slot, we have You Can Fly, a 2-cost Inkable action song. So you can exert one of those 2-cost or higher characters to go ahead and sing it, and chosen character is going to get evasive until the start of your next turn. So not only is this going to make your card an evasive threat to whatever evasive characters may be troubling you, but also it can potentially, if your opponent doesn't have an evasive character to challenge in with, it may make one of your characters unchallengeable for a turn, allowing you to get that little bit of extra lore that you need to close the game out. Staying on the action strategy, we are on 4 Show Me More, a 2-cost uninkable action. Each player draws 3 cards, so this is going to let your opponent draw some cards, but that's okay because you want to draw so many cards that it doesn't even matter. If you're drawing a ton of cards and you're drawing into those Befuddles, even if they're firing out some low-cost characters that could give you trouble, use Befuddle them back to their hand, fire out your own low-cost characters, and just keep that tempo in your favor. Next up, move into the 3-cost slot. We are on 4 Madam Mim Fox. I will play this card in every single Amethyst deck I can play it in where it makes sense until it is no longer playable in Core Constructed. This is probably, if not my favorite Amethyst card, definitely up at the top of that list. I think Madam Mim Fox is absolutely incredible as a 3-cost Inkable 4/3 stat line. When you play her, you get to bounce one of your other characters back to your hand, and yes, I do say get to because I think that ability is super beneficial in a lot of instances, and she has Rush. So she is just going to come out, challenge stuff away. You combine her with something like You Can Fly, and she's going to challenge away those evasive threats, even those genies, and she is going to take that challenge favorably, which is great. Next up, we have 4 Sisu and Bolden Warrior, a 3-cost Inkable 1/4 stat line, questing for 2. With this character, gets +1 strength for each card in your opponent's hand. Obviously, in card games in general, particularly in Lorcana, drawing cards is the name of the game. There are a lot of color combinations across multiple inks that are going to be drawing a ton of cards and going to be trying to keep their hand full and healthy is a big part of playing the game. So even if your opponent has 3 or 4 cards in their hand, you're looking at a 4/4 or potentially even a 5/4 for 3 ink, which is crazy, especially when you consider she also quests for 2. If you're new to the channel, I have always been a big Ruby Amethyst player. It's what I won my first several set championships with. Next, we have 4 Friends on the Other Side, a 3-cost Inkable action song. Draw 2 cards. So it's going to let you go ahead and exert something to put 2 more cards in your hand, which is going to be fantastic. Like I mentioned, drawing cards is a big part of this game, as you may have guessed with the next card we're going to talk about, which is Genie Wish Fulfilled, a 4-cost uninkable 2/4 stat line, questing for 2 with evasive, and when you play this character, you are going to draw cards. So he just is going to continue to fuel your hand while also being a major lore threat, particularly if your opponent doesn't have an evasive or something like an Along Came Zeus, which is something that people are playing less now. I'm seeing more people just playing the Strength Storm package, which I think is the right call, as evidenced by my build of Amber Steel. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. Our other character in the 4-cost slot is going to be 2 Iago Giant Spectral Parrot, a 4-cost Inkable 4/6 stat line, incredible stat line, questing for 1. Does have evasive, so another great way to deal with some of those potential evasive threats, but it does also have Vanish, so it is potentially pretty squishy into some of those opposing decks, so Iago may not always do what you want him to do. Next up, we have 2 Elsa the Fifth Spirit, a 5-cost Inkable 2/5 stat line, questing for 1 with Rush and evasive. So if you're sensing a theme here, it is making sure we're not losing to evasive decks. Rush is also incredibly good, going to be able to let you take some favorable challenges right away, and when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. So again, just a third ability that's going to let you take some favorable challenges by letting you exert something that may be really easy for Elsa to wipe off the board. Also in the 5-cost slot, we're on 2 Maui Hero to All, a 5-cost Inkable 6/5 stat line with Rush and Wreck deck list, incredibly good card. I know you guys are used to seeing my enchanted Mauis. They're in another deck right now, so I thought I'd show off my just standard foil Mauis. This was my first step to enchanted Mauis. But Maui, Hero to All, Rush, and Reckless, 6/5 for 5. So he's going to come out, wipe out whatever opposing threat you need to deal with. So he's still really good. He is not necessarily a 4 of in my mind anymore, where questing is so important, and this deck isn't ink ramping. If you're ink ramping, I think you can get away with playing more Mauis. But in this deck list, 2 felt pretty good. And then the last card, and this is a 4 of, you'll see that I only have 3. So the last card is a placeholder. You see a little Lorcana card sticking out here. That is a placeholder in my deck for my 4th Lilo, which is not here yet, but I wanted to talk about this deck list all the same. We have Lilo Causing an Uproar, the card that this deck list is built around, and a card that I think is absolutely fantastic. Great with this particular combination of actions where you're focused on using your actions to draw a ton of cards, to potentially put not only more actions in your hand to fuel out Lilo, if not that turn during a later turn, or fuel out additional Lilos, but to potentially draw some additional Lilos. So you have 2 or even 3 Lilos in your hand when you play those 3 actions. Lilo is a 5-cost Inkable 4/4 stat line questing for 2, and during your turn, if you played 3 or more actions this turn, you may play this character for free. So that's where you're wanting to play a lot of actions, draw a lot of cards, play more actions, get more Lilos in your hand, and then throw as many Lilos down at once as you can. Obviously, if you're going into a turn where you're expecting something like Be Prepared, don't flood the board with Lilos at that time. Play it smart. But Lilo's secondary ability is also incredibly good, particularly if you had some characters exerting to sing songs or do other things to get her onto the board to really set you up for that next turn. When you play this character, ready chosen character, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. So she's going to come down, she's going to ready a chosen character. So say, for instance, you exert a character to sing Friends on the other side, and then another character for sing Friends on the other side, and then you befuddle something on your opponent's side of the board. So you have 2 characters exerted, and maybe you have another character that's available to you. You go ahead and quest with that character. 3 characters down, you played 2 friends on the other side, very likely drawn into another action. About a third of this deck is actions, so you're going to go ahead and throw down that other action. In this instance, maybe something like a Befuddle, get even more tempo control by returning one of your opponent's characters back to their hand, and then you're going to go ahead and throw down as many Lilos as you've been able to draw into, assuming you don't have something else to draw cards. If you're sitting on something like Show Me More, maybe you play that instead of Befuddle and you draw 7 cards that turn, and throw down as many Lilos as you can, and then you're ready to just stomp face going into the next turn. You could potentially have 2 or 3 4/4s questing for 2 ready going into like turn 4. So it's pretty crazy with this deck. I mean, if you get the real gas hand with actions and you throw down like a 1-drop with an It Calls Me and a couple Befuddles going into turn 2, and you have all the rest of your hand as Lilos, you could potentially be in a crazy position on turn 2 with multiple 4/4s questing for 2, which is just a crazy thought to think about. I don't think that's incredibly likely. You'd have to have the absolute perfect hand, the nuts as they call it, as Lorcana goons would say, but I don't think that's necessarily the most likely thing in the world. But I do think there's a world where you can control your draw and kind of cycle in to those Lilos into your hand with a few actions, and then just fire off a bunch of these onto the board and absolutely stomp face. It's been pretty good in testing. I'm going to take it into a tournament setting today. I'll definitely drop a note in the description on this video to let you know how the deck list was able to perform in a tournament setting. I am expecting a lot of Amber Steel, and particularly Rhino. I don't know how well this deck list is going to do into that, so maybe I'll struggle today, and that's what I'll find out. I think if it's not a heavily Amber Steel meta, which obviously isn't the world that we live in, the deck could do really well. I do see a lot of versatility amongst the players at my locals. They play a lot of super competitive decks, but there's also some fun decks, or some decks where people choose to be a little bit more creative with the cards that they're playing. People testing new strategies, kind of like I'm doing with this Lilo deck list. So who knows how it'll go. We'll definitely let you know. But if you enjoyed this deck list, you think I'm playing all the right cards, let me know in the comments below. If you want to get entered into that giveaway, that's a great way to do that as well. And when you see those toys, video games, and those big old Lilos causing an uproar off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.